Okay, so Amahle has a question and Felicity has a question. I think Felicity was first.
Hi, I have two questions. The
Okay.
first question I wanted to ask is in regards to short films.
Mhm.
So, the distribution of short films for me, I tend to feel like it's quite limiting to us as filmmakers because if I don't attend a film premiere, I won't get to see a particular short film, or if I don't have um, a specific platform, maybe it's on Prime Video, then I won't get to view the film. So I wanted to ask, is there some sort of agreement that I would have maybe with either Prime Video or I don't know, Showmax to air my short film there? And could I also post it on a platform like YouTube, or do I have to choose a specific platform?
Okay, so the thing about platforms like Showmax, Prime, or um, Netflix is that once you once you once you choose one, you stick with one, right? Because there's a contract there where you have to sign and give them rights for a number of years. For example, there's a film we did, and we the platform that it ended up landing on was Netflix, right? But in the agreement, you sign a 3-year agreement to say they're the only distributor of that film for that 3 years, and then with potential to extend depending on how it does. And also it's very region based, so you could find that your short film will only be distributed in South Africa or just in Africa, and depending on how it does, then it goes international. It's very rare sometimes to find an international, just especially when I'm speaking more with Netflix, even Showmax. So the thing about where it lands is that they want to be assured that they're gonna get their money back in hosting your film in their website. I always say I love YouTube because people might not know, but the biggest streaming service of the whole of last year and this year was YouTube. People watch more YouTube at home than they watch Netflix, than they watch um Prime, Hulu, whatever, all of these things. YouTube beat Netflix by a mile of where people watch their shows on. So more people are watching YouTube on their TV than they are watching the other streaming services. So for me, I feel that if you find no other platform, YouTube is still a very viable option for you to distribute your film. The thing about putting it on YouTube though is that then your marketing needs to be high. Like your
Mm,
marketing needs to be on point so that you can direct traffic there, because it could be lost in the algorithm.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering my question. And my last question is based on the book, because I think
Yeah.
Lesego touched on it briefly. But
Yeah.
what inspired you to write a book on producing? Because I think from my point of view, it would stem from the lack of resources that a lot of producers don't have, like contingency. I know about it, but I know a lot of people don't know about it. Like you said, they don't like putting it in their budget. But what really
Mm.
inspired you to write the book?
Honestly, it's exactly that, right? So I thought back to film school, right? Even in film school, the budgeting was never like expanded on. In fact, I don't think it was ever touched on in school. You were taught about pre-prod, you were taught about scheduling, you were taught about editing. Well, when I was still in film school, and all of that, yes, but even our production major never touched on a budget. A budget is something I came across when I got into actually the world of working. Even then, it's such a secretive document within the company because obviously there's lines that people shouldn't know about, which I respect that and I understand why it's done that way. But it is such a secret to a point where I'm saying to a point where people don't even know that there's a project that is coming. So I saw that there were no resources. I searched, not even international resources, on how to put together a budget as a filmmaker. Even when you search, your Google search will have, yes, a worded, it will be more worded of how your budget, what is a budget and how, not really how to put it together. It will just tell you that it is a document that you need to put together in terms of how to manage the finances of your film, right? But there was no step-by-step guide of really how to put together a budget. In my book, there's also a live example of a budget, an actual budget of a show I worked on, full detail from start to the end of that budget, just to show you exactly how to put it together. Not just the worded breakdown, but also this is an actual live thing of a budget. And every budget is different because you can take out some elements. For example, if you don't have animals in your show, you don't have to have a line item for screen animals, right? So, but maybe you have guns, then you have to put armorers and all of that there. So every every budget is unique to the script, to the story, but all of them have the same elements. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. So I what inspired me was that there isn't enough information. And when you're asking, for example, when people ask people for a budget, whether or a budget template, it's almost like you're asking people to reveal their personal finances. No one wants to share a budget template or or how to put together a budget. And I understand it takes years to get to where we are, and it's time and all of that. But I feel like information shared just makes us better than information kept. I don't know. How are we gonna grow when nobody knows what's happening?
True. That's amazing. I want to touch on that a bit later. But I think Amahle is next, if not Bonolo. I think Amahle. Yeah. Okay, Amahle.
Thank you so much to you, Lindiwe and Lesego. I just want to ask, when it comes to attaching the CVs of your potential team, which is usually done for credibility, what's the best way to go about that section if I don't really know that person personally, to get to a point where I ask them for their CV? For example, for you, I know what you've done, I know your work in, and if I think you're the best producer for the certain project, what's the best way to go about that? Because I don't know you like that.
For me, for example, I've had people reach out, right, to say, hey, I'm working on this project, I'd like to put your name forward. I think that's the best way. What you shouldn't do though, however, is ask the person to collaborate without offering. That's when you lose people, because other people, when they approach you, they approach you with the, hey, I'm putting this together, can you help me put it together, and then we're gonna work and I'll compensate you later. That doesn't work like that. So rather you approach someone and say, hey, I'm working on with NVF on this film or this or that. They've asked me for potential team members. I think I would like to work with you. Are you willing? Can you send me your CV so I can put it forward? That's the best. I've always said yes to people who ask like that. I give them my
Thank
CV
you.
because, yeah, you don't know whether it's gonna pan out or not. But yeah, I usually do give my CV. Where you lose me is where you ask me to start working without like a proper conversation. That's where we're gonna be like, okay, no. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Bonolo, you're up.
Oh, hi everyone. Thank you very much for this session. My question, because I think Felicity had asked something in relation with the NVF, and you touched on cost reports. So I've always been curious about how you guys do cost reports for telenovelas. Do you do them per episode or per season? Or I just wanted to be enlightened on that. And I also would love to know, how does one get their hands on your book? How do we get your book? Thank you.
Okay. All right. So cost report on a telenovela is done monthly, right? So on a telenovela, you have monthly payments, right? As crew, if you've ever worked on a telenovela, you know that they will negotiate with you a monthly rate, right? So at the end of each month, you need to report to client how much you've spent for that month and how does it look going forward. Are you going to make it? So that's why it's done monthly, to check your progress every month with the budget, with the schedule, to say that are we going to meet the deadline, and are we going to be on budget in meeting that deadline? So it's done monthly. That's how cost report is done. And the other thing I didn't mention, I'm just remembering it now when I speak, is that most people don't understand this, but your schedule is your budget. Your budget is your schedule. Those two documents are not independent of each other. They're more like two sides of one coin, right? Because your schedule is what dictates, your budget dictates your schedule, but your schedule dictates also if you're going to make it with your budget. I don't know if I've confused anyone there, but just know that the schedule, you as a line producer or as anyone working with the budget, you and your scheduler become best friends, because everything in his document or her document dictates how your document is going to make it at the end, how your bank is going to make it at the end. To elaborate more on the cost report and what that document is, it's actually a detailed ledger of sort of what your expenses are. So on your cost report, you will have a cost to date, you will have budget amount, you will have estimate to complete, and then you will have a variance. A variance is whether or not you are under the budget or you are over the budget. That's what a cost report entails. What was the second question? Or how to
This
get my book?
is about the book. So I would like for you to close with that so that people remember it. Think that we need a lot more people like you that are willing to give off information, because it's not the same as school. You know, school is very theory based, and this is more experience and lived experience, etc.
Yeah.
But we have two more questions. One is from Basitsana, and the other one is from Bongegile. So can we start le Basitsana?
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Basi.
How are you?
All right, thanks, and you.
Good, thanks. My question is a bit, let me say, an overview of production and how money is spent, right? I've realized that over the years, executive producers are more focused on how much money is spent. And I know how much is saved, rather, sorry. What is saved, it goes to whoever it goes to, either channel or the execs. So, Lindiwe, I'd like to know overall, what have you come across? Are people quick to save money for their own pockets, or is the budget, overall budget, going to the product? Because what I've seen is that the products are
lacking.
Yes.
You can see where money has not been spent, but money
Mm.
was provided for. So I
Okay.
just want to get an overview as to, I don't want to say greedy, but greedy is the first word that comes to mind.
Yeah.
We are getting and forgetting the craft and
Yeah.
what we're supposed to be doing here.
Okay. So I'll speak only based on my experience, right? Because other people have different lived experiences in the industry as well, and none is more truer than the other, right?
Yes,
In
of
my
course.
experience, there are executive producers who are profit driven, and there are ones that are more product driven, right? The quality of what they put out there matters to them more than how much is saved. So let me just break it down. Please give me the time to when you, whatever savings you make when there's when there's a broadcaster involved, usually 60% of those savings go back to the broadcaster, right? And then 40% becomes what you are left with as a production. That's how it is currently. 60% goes back to channel and 40% stays in-house. I've found that what you don't want to do is have any savings that the channel is going to take 60% of, because what you've now done is told the channel that you didn't need that amount in your budget. You have ruined it for every production thereafter. Because if, for example, I had a line item that is for set build and I don't use that set build amount, I leave it there because I want to have a 40% profit of that saving. What I have told the channel is that there is no need for set build, not just for me, but for other production companies as well. I think a lot of producers have now clocked that this is how the channel takes it. If you don't use a line, even if your show gets a season 2, they will not give you that line because you didn't use it in the previous season. Maybe there was a time and a time where people were trying to save because cost reporting wasn't as detailed as it is now, right? But now that the cost reporting has become so detailed and so frequent, more and more execs are using up the budget amount on the actual product. The issue now is that the budgets have actually decreased significantly. Yes, they literally just shoestring, and you have to produce the same quality that you had to produce back then. And part of why they've also become the shoestring that they are is because of the greed previously that was there. The one thing that I've never done as a line producer is that ask for a certain percentage, because that's when you start skimping on the actual product, just so you are the one benefiting at the end. The incentive, I've never taken an incentive in my entire career. I think it is now no longer a practice that is acceptable in the industry, which is great, because incentives were killing the industry, because people were trying to save as much as they can in order to get to a part where they get, if for example the saving is 2 million rands and you get an incentive of 10%, that is a lot of money. And a lot of people were doing that. I'm not saying they were not doing that, but in the productions that I've been in, I've had, there are only a few times, and I've never worked with them again, where from the onset a producer just said, can you save 3 million from this budget? And my immediate answer has always been no. And when I say no, I will call the CE and let them know what you have asked me, because that is unethical according to me. And that's why I'm not the fave with everyone. But there have been people who do that, but it's become so hard to even do that with these current budgets that we have in the industry. It's no longer a practice that can be done. In fact, you're always finding yourself, most people find themselves trying not to be over, because these current budgets are a sure way that you're going to be over if you don't plan properly.
Just to add to that, I think that also when you think about it, obviously I don't own a production company that has had commissioned work yet, but when you think about it, these production companies are putting out their IP that ends up being owned by a broadcaster.
Yes.
That the broadcaster then, duplicates and puts out and monetizes on for years on years on years, while this production company might not have their next gig if they pitch and whatever. So sometimes their saving is not necessarily from a greed point of view, but just a forecasting of maybe potentially making another project when there is no work for people that are working under them, so that they can still be able to pay people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's right, but I'm just saying that if you don't own anything as a production company, it does put you in a pickle when you do get the finance from a commission point of view.
And the quite honestly, of late, the budgets don't even allow for a saving. It's very hard to make a saving. For you to make a saving with these current budgets, it would mean that you have really lowballed a lot of people in the production, a lot of the creatives, the actors, the crew, and clearly it's gonna show in the product, because nobody's gonna have a care on set. You want it's a delicate balance, right? You need people who are still gonna care enough, and the rate speaks to that.
100%.
Because otherwise you just have people who took the job just because they want bread, but like, I'm not gonna care, and you want to avoid that.
True. Okay, our last question for the night is from Bongekile. Bongekile, the stage is yours.
Evening, everybody. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes, we can.
I have two questions. One is, how do you determine the contingency fee? So is it based on past experiences? Is it based on the research that you do with regards to the show that you're budgeting for? Or is there's a certain amount that is like J for general, that is the amount that everyone sticks to in terms of contingency?
The best practice is at least 10% of every subcategory, right? For me, I found that 10%, even if you go over, right, because you're not going to go over more than 10% of the budget. At that point, even your client, whoever it is going to be like, there's no way. So it has to be at 10% of your budget. The rest is up to you to manage, so that you don't even get to that 10%, but that if all elements are against you, that the least you need is 10%. Because anything above that would mean there's literally 3 days where you are not shooting, and that is unacceptable to a degree.